The next question, which technology solutions are recommended to support operational and people-focused hybrid priorities?
Great, I'm happy to take this one. Well, I think there's so much to talk about. I mean, there's so much going on and so much changing and so much opportunity, and it's a lot of fun to be in IT right now with the changes that are happening. But I think sort of a high-level theme for this is three words, which are resiliency, security, and flexibility. And that's a word that we just heard Jillian talk about as well. And with flexibility, actually, there's a sense of speed as well, being able to be nimble and change depending on what the changing needs are sort of on the ground. But taking this question just sort of fundamentally about what it takes to be successful working from home, which is what happened overnight. And by the way, I think it's kind of neat. IT sort of is having its day in the sun because it has become absolutely readily apparent that we can't function without good technology, right? We cannot function without the tools, what we're talking on right now. We could not do this without someone who invented this technology and then implemented it and made it work. So hats off to all the IT folks everywhere. And I think organizations started to really appreciate that in March of 2020, when all of a sudden everybody went home and it was scary for everybody.
Well, I think, Jason, even at the outset, right? I think IT was considered to be essential worker status.
Yes, precisely.
For organizations.
Yeah, and clearly it was, and so it was. I mean, for many organizations, things have worked. Like I said, it was scary there at first, but for many, it settled down. But just sort of back to this question, the technologies that that are recommended to support, at least I'll just start with just the working from home. And then there's a couple other questions we'll get into the office and the hybrid, et cetera. But ultimately, like I said, you need network. That's like oxygen. So that's an issue for a lot of folks who are working from home without perhaps the best network connectivity. So there's some things that you can do to help improve that. Obviously, people working from home can increase the bandwidth. But there are some tools like SD-WAN, which is, not everybody knows all these acronyms, so I'll spell them out. And I know many people on the call do, but for those of you who don't, that's software-defined wide area networking. That's using technology to help improve the quality of the user experience based on how traffic is routed through the network, as well as prioritizing some traffic over other traffic. For instance, this video conference would be prioritized over my children who might be working on Google Classroom at the same time. So that's, and the third part of that is it offers some security features and can act as a firewall. So there are companies out there that are offering this to their employees working at home as a home-based software-defined wide area networking service. So that's something that I would recommend people look into, at least as an option to support their work from home. And there's also, which is interesting, I haven't heard too much about this, so I'm kind of interested to see what happens, which is carriers promoting or starting to promote more and more business quality cable for home use, which would be perhaps not on the shared, a lot of home internet, it's shared with everybody else in the neighborhood as far as what your bandwidth. There's no commitment to what your bandwidth is going to be. So business cable is something to look out for down the road. I've heard some rumors of this coming down the road, or them carriers promoting that more often. But the other thing I would say is secure access to your desktop environment. So remember when the work from home mandates first came out, everybody was sent home overnight, and there was a fire sale on laptops. And sort of the world ran out of laptops to some degree. It was hard to find them. But they sent people home with those, and then they would log in to the corporate network through a virtual private network, a VPN. There's some issues associated with that. There's still some security issues associated with that, even though it's a virtual private network, because You've got more information, more computing now going on outside of the fold of the company on the edge. There's endpoint risk. And so a technology to obviate that is virtual desktop infrastructure. And that's becoming more and more popular, which is basically you're using a browser to get into where your desktop environment is in a secure data center somewhere else or on premise. And there's a lot of benefits. I can go into it a little bit later. There's a lot of benefits to a virtual desktop infrastructure environment, and it can be done as a cloud-based offering as well, and as a service offering, and that's called desktop as a service. So that is another technology that I would recommend people look into. And then the last thing you ultimately need when you're working from home is you need to get access to those software applications. And we'll go into these in a little bit more detail, but these are software applications like unified communications or collaboration. This would be Zoom, Ring Central, Microsoft Teams. You need that software. You need customer resource management software. You need Salesforce, et cetera. But you need to get to them securely, and you need to get to them in a way where you have very high quality access. And that's where things like SD-WAN and increasing your bandwidth at home can help.